Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Welcome to another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. Seeking the truth, exposing the lies. Remember, together, we are unstoppable. Keep on digging.
And this is not a comic.
And it was sort of like America saying, hey, we bombed Japan and pretty much, look, China, if you don't abide by what we say, or
This is hilarious.
you have heavy aggression against us to even just have a land-to-land battle with us or sea-to-sea, we will drop the bombs. But seeing that it's the year of 2022, like, even with the whole bombing of Japan from, I don't even know when, I just know it was a long-ass time ago.
Yes.
Even with that,
Yes.
China is still going to press against the U.S. and vice versa, too. Because at the end of the day, a lot of major powers have nuclear weapons, missiles, all that. Pretty much the same stuff as the U.S.
What are you even saying?
So
That's
table that.
hold on a second.
Table that.
Can't
You want to talk about it?
hold on 1 second. I just want to say something real quick. That is impressive. He just went full imperialist right there and just said, "Yep, that's what we did." It wasn't because we were trying to save American lives. It was because we were like, we're going to kill all these people, and you're not going to do anything about it. And if you try to come at us, this is what's going to happen to you. You know what? I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, we got another one from him.
Yeah, I
Not a
say
comic.
military-industrial complex is a threat because of size, but it's not off size alone. It's basically like the capabilities and shit. It's a mix of propaganda, which can pretty much just rot the mind, along with the fact that it sort of becomes a person versus nation, or what is your true identity as an American? Is it to stand for your country and fight for a flag and a president, or is it to care for your family, and if a world war does break out, you try to get your family to the safest place possible, and pretty much try to preserve yourself along with your family and friends. It's a battle of many things when it comes to the military-industrial complex, and that's like 1% of it, of what I know.
Can't you read the title? This room is not for you, Mr. Natakami.
Not fair. Not fair. He's there to push against what the narrative is. And
Right.
I'm not necessarily I sort of see what he's saying, but I'm not full on biting into whatever he's trying to push. Because I hear what he's saying and I hear the spirit, but it's like it's kind of lost in some sort of like gobbledygook to me. So I appreciate him reading the comment. Yeah.
He was pretty much agreeing with us, so I don't see where his point was going because he's sounding more communist and socialist, right?
Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that.
Right.
Well, if he was here.
Should we go ahead and run these messages down?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's go for it.
Here's Deluxe again.
Don't play mine.
One, we supplied a weapon to Europe, and Wilson didn't feel like we were giving enough money to Europe, so there was a boat that went across the seas, and there was 25 Americans on it, and they knew there was U-boats in the water, and they purposely sent the boat over that way to get the backing, and because it got blown up, of course, so the backing up of the United States to get involved in the war to make more profit on weapons. This is nothing new. This is things that have been happening. It's a continuous cycle that needs to be broken.
Yeah. We got Desert Fox coming in hot.
There's a pretty famous soundbite that I use for Cannabis Conundrum every once in a while. That's Obama talking about Yeah, I did. I smoked weed and I inhaled. I mean, Bill Clinton always said he didn't inhale. He was like, "What's the point?" What's
I
going on,
didn't
gentlemen?
inhale, but I certainly swallowed.
Oh my god.
Heyo. Heyo.
Oh my god. We got not a commie again.
Nope, it's not that either. It's not bigger to lie. It's basically like how much opposition is against the lie. Cause with like the whole Nazi Germany thing when it came to World War II and stuff, it was this quote from Hitler. I can't say it word for word, but he basically ended up saying when it came to me taking over Germany and putting the whole Nazi swastikas across everything and basically trying to eradicate every Jewish person, he said that I'm not gonna lie. I would have failed at coming into power or even spreading my message if I would have had a moderate, if not mass amount of number of people actually standing against me. So it's not even about having a big lie. It's about having sort of people who have resentment towards your horrible message.
Well, I wish that guy would have Googled about what he was trying to say before he tried to say it.
I mean, it's just a sort of like yes, there was, his attempt to eradicate Jews, but like there were still like homosexuals, there were still gypsies, there were still aspects of what he saw in Berlin that he didn't want to like. He thought the access was too much, and he cut all that shit down. And that period, if like there's a couple of really good documentaries on the cabaret and also the I'm just gonna say this just like the aspect of like the aspect of like being sexually fluent at the time that was happening in Europe, happening in like I said sorry that was happening in like Berlin at that time that was not happening anywhere, maybe Paris close, but like what was happening in Berlin was so special. It was so special, and he like that cut it off. So there's so many different things culturally wise that like or did to change the aspect of like what Europe was, and like yeah, the kid's trying. Just give him that he's trying, but I'm not sure he just found his footing just yet. That's all. Let's go to the next one. Or anyone wants
Next
to rebut
message.
what I just said. Anyone wants to
We
rebut
got
what I
Mr.
just said?
Glock.
So just to be clear, you were saying that Germany at the time was a lot more like progressive and open.
Yes. They had cabaret. They like there were women
That's
kissing.
something
There were men kissing on
something I
stage.
didn't know. That's something
Yeah,
I didn't know. Yeah.
Are you serious?
No, I really didn't know that. Yeah.
It was like no, Berlin was like the like if you were needed to be comfortable like in your skin at the time in the late 30s or whatever, you went there and you got to either perform because like that was the money that you made, but you got a chance to be there and you got to enjoy the fruits of your labor because you got to be around your people. And that at the time
Berlin
was
was
something.
Berlin was like San Francisco before San Francisco was a thing.
Yes, basically, yes. It was San Francisco before San Francisco, and Hitler stumped that out. Basically, am I wrong? Adorable.
Was that?
We got Mr. Glocks coming in hot.
Ain't there something seriously called lies of omission or something like that?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I heard it somewhere. I just don't recall. I wish I could recall. Because, you got to have data points and statistics and facts. But yeah, I believe it's called lies of omission. Just about all media does it.
Nailed it. We got Purple G.
Hey guys, shout out to the panel. I'm enjoying the talk so far. Sounding good. Keep up the good work.
Kenan, you want to play your message?
Just go ahead and play. Just play because it's giving love to my boy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have to go with you, Adorable. AD, I will say this, if you would like, I have aspects of like running for office, either be, at some point, and we like, here on the panel, they're telling us it's a third party aspect, but on a local level, we can't do that. Maybe on a national level or somewhat on the state level, but no. On a local level, we have to look at what we are given, and it's either blue or it's red. So, yeah.
And we got Purple G again.
Hey guys, I'll squeeze this message in here. When the messages are like 30 minutes long, you might as well just ignore them because things might just be out of context.
How about I
Yeah,
ignore?
Shannon.
Shut the fuck up.
This is a recent message. Shannon from 936. Oops.
Talk about politicians. We got a federal election coming up in May sometime in Australia, so it'd be interesting if we have the same prime minister or a new one. Heard both of them are losers anyway, so I don't know. So yeah, pretty much just for Labor versus Liberal, but both of them can be corrupt. But I'm going to vote for independents, I think. Like the smaller parties, like Pauline Hanson's seat, yeah.
Woohoo, one more message and we're caught up. Purple G again.
Hey guys, let me throw a question in here. What do you guys think are the best things about being a conservative and the biggest difference from being a liberal?
I would say, and
How
I
dare you
can't-
call me a liberal?
I can't generalize it for everybody. Like the way I evaluate the parties is how their elected leaders govern. So when I say my answer, saying that Rose is a left-leaning person is this, but I'm talking more.
I'm a communist.
Govern.
Let's get it right.
So I would say that I am a conservative because I prefer policy over pandering. And while Republicans don't always get it right, I believe that they are focused more on policy, where the Democrats are focused more on pandering.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree too. I don't call myself a liberal or a Democrat. I call myself a progressive because the Democrats have left me behind. And I heard a quote. I think it was by Chuck Schumer. He was saying, well, going the course, we're going to lose some blue collar voters, but for every blue collar voter we lose, we're going to pick up a soccer mom, meaning a moderate Republican. So
Yes.
the Democratic Party sold out their whole base.
Yep, I heard that too. And he can go fuck himself.
I
Yeah.
don't think it is telling out its base. It's like knowing if. I think when like Schumer said that, he says if you know what we're about and not think of us as the boogeymen that are like or like now I'll go a little bit deep on this one. We're not the ones like eating babies and like having like weird orgies, because like Hawthorne brought that up from like North Carolina and caused a whole lot of problem in his own sort of like the congressman from North Carolina in the wheelchair. He was out there saying, "It's like, yeah, the first time I went to like the DC, there was all these Republicans like just having orgies and like snorting doing cocaine, and then they had to reel him back." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. See, so you have those aspects also. Do I think sometimes some of the progressive sort of aspects of the Democratic Party talk too much and give too much into like what their agenda is? You should always let your constituents know like what you want them to do and why you vote in that situation. But sometimes they go too far. And you look at the squad and say like, okay, so OC or better this one or better that one or whatever. But like, I don't think they represent the full party itself. Like the same way, it's a tent. If the GOP's a tent, the Republican Party's a tent, Democrats are a tent also. And we will always have those louder voices on the other side, either be left or right, that want to like come in more and have their power, but we do need to lean into like not so much the GOP aspect of it, because like this shit they just say like crazy shit. And not to say that like some of the things that comes out of the squad and versus other more progressive people are just like this random like shit. It's like, why'd you say that? Why'd you say it? Because like they can always play it on the Fox News, and that's why we don't win. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, as once again, as the liberal on this panel, that's how I feel about like both parties. That's how I feel about both parties.
So why don't we go around and we can all say that say our opinions. Adorable or another one? Do you want to, or Dave? Do you want to say something?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I consider rhetoric an art of itself, and it doesn't have anything to do with policy. And that's what kills me about the Democratic Party, is that they say they're for they don't even say a living wage, right? We're going to fight for a minimum wage. Well, a minimum wage doesn't cut it anymore, right? Well, what about healthcare during a pandemic? That didn't even come up. So it's all this rhetoric, like that we're working for you, we're fighting for you in the trenches. No, they're not. She came into office saying she was going to boot Nancy Pelosi out of office, which is the exact same thing Nancy Pelosi said when she was getting elected. She said she was going to go for impeachment of George Bush. As soon as she got in, she said impeachment is off the table. AOC did the same thing. So they either got death threats, or they realized what Cannon said, that they have to be in the tent and they can't be outside the tent, or they have no career. So I'm not sure which it is, but either way, that's the rhetoric side, right? And that's what makes me sick, is that people can't see through the rhetoric. Like, show me policies, right? So that's pretty much where I stand.
Adorable. You?
No, I don't think there's really anything that I can add to Dave said. I mean, I think he hit the head on the nail. Is, look, I don't always agree with all Republican policy, but I will give Republicans that it's very specific and policy based. I'll give you an example. You look at the LGBT community. Democrats have done a great job of saying we want to raise the rainbow flag on city buildings. We're going to stand up and write a proclamation that says June is Pride Month. We're going to tell you how much you matter. But none of that in terms of policy really does anything marginally to advance the economic stability of the LGBT community. You look at Donald Trump, and this is probably going to trigger people, but look, we have the first American president that stood up before the United Nations and said, you will not persecute people for having this lifestyle. The first to call for the decriminalization worldwide of being homosexual. His administration allocated $68 million, which was number 2 only to that of Reagan, another conservative, towards HIV/AIDS research and prevention, which is the number 1 killer of gay men in America. People can talk about his rhetoric and how he says mean things, but look, I'd rather a president stand on the stage and say you're a disgusting little faggot, but at least here's some real policy to help you live a better life in this country, than waving a goddamn rainbow flag, which does absolutely nothing for me.
Beautifully said.
Wow.
And I would like to gather them all up for the gulag. So we'll just leave it at that.
To be clear, he publicly indicated that he loves us, but that Mike Pence wants to hang us. So it wasn't Donald Trump.
No, yeah. And if you look at what Pence did as a governor, disgusting. He now gets the sort of like the fact that like he's played more as the victim in the situation. But if he's not going to be the next president. He will never be. The take on Pence is he carried water to have Trump get the evangelicals come in with him, and at no point did he ever like sort of like stay Trump to the point where he was always like that. the same way like Nancy Reagan like looked at everything that Reagan said, disapprovingly. That's the same look that Pence had when he looked at Trump. Just like, I really like you. I just, you know. So he never positioned himself to the point to where he could have like pivoted, and we know his track record. So it doesn't really matter. And you can go back to his radio show if anyone knows that, but that's the reason why he got on the market itself, because he did a radio show that was very, very like, Rush Limbaugh, whatever. And I think that's like the fact that like, and like you guys are all said like, you are either, have, I'm not sure about Dave, but guys are Republicans. And when Rush passed away, I felt that gave sort of a vacuum for sort of middle-aged, older boomers. So they have thoughts, but like, what else do they have? What else do they have? Like, sort of like get into like, I'm tired of like, people of color doing this or queerness doing this. You know what I'm saying? It's like they don't have that like. They can't sit in the car anymore.
They don't have
and
that
Hannity,
outlet.
Yeah, and Hannity does it a certain way, and I feel Tucker does it like the worst way. Tucker is like the worst of it all. Tucker is just. You look at his progression. You look at his own person, like his drive as like his professional drive as not a journalist, but as a talking head. Tucker is like one of the worst people I've ever been around. I got a chance to meet him, but real quick, Adorable, did you go to CPAC?
I generally have stayed away from things like CPAC, and for me, I
Why?
understand
Because all the neo Nazis.
Well, that's a part of it. But for me, it's frustrating because I think that the Republican Party has sort of adopted this model of spreading their message through conservative influencers. And so you get people like Brandon Straka, people like Scott Pressler, people like Charlie Kirk, who spend a lot of time and energy saying nice things. But when it comes to tangible policy and grassroots activism, they've done very little to actually advance Republican ideals. I mean, I had a huge Twitter fight with Scott Pressler at one point because I said, look, you talk about how great it is to be a Republican, but which candidate have you knocked on doors for? Which legislative chambers have you gone and spoke to testify in regards to bills? People like the idea of waving Trump flags and driving up and down the streets saying MAGA, but that doesn't change policy in America. It's fun
at all.
And it's a good Instagram shot. And so that's, I've become very disappointed in where Republicans have gone. Look, I've said for years that Republicans have got to become activists. The Democrats have done an incredible job with March for Our Lives, an incredible job in regards to the LGBT community, in regards to Black Lives Matter, with getting out and creating noise. What the Republicans did was not use that to supplement their agenda, but really use that to replace policy. And I think that's where it became detrimental.
Well, I mean, only way, honestly, Adorable, I will have to agree with you. The gubernatorial election that happened in Virginia, to where they were told critical race theory was going to be told to their kids, and parents felt coming out of the pandemic they had no control because you're putting masks on my kids, and now you're going to tell my kid that them being white is detriment to like their development. And even Megyn Kelly herself, you know what I'm saying? She sort of like within her podcast, that's something that she pushed. But her kids were all in paid for New York schools that of course would have that liberal sort of lean into what it can be. But like when you tell some some mom that had to sit through the pandemic and these are kids, and now you're telling them like now they're going to hear some shit that I don't want them to hear, then it's not real. Critical race theory is not taught in elementary schools. It's just not. It's just not.
Well, and here's what's interesting is you're correct. Critical race theory is not what's being taught. But for me, and this is what I shared even with my conservative colleagues when it came to Black Lives Matter, I think that the conservative response to BLM was perhaps the biggest misstep in the history of the party. You know, I would go to BLM rallies. I'd get labeled a rhino and I'd get called all kinds of things by my fellow conservatives. But I'd go and I'd talk to a black single mother and say, you know, what are you upset with? You know, my lives matter. I'm sick of these rundown schools. And I said, absolutely. Absolutely. You deserve the right to send your child to any school that you see fit at not your expense as a taxpayer. And that's why Republicans are advocating for school choice. Now, whether or not you agree with school choice, it's an option that Republicans are presenting to at least help urban communities. And instead of engaging Black Lives Matter as a way of saying, let us share with you what our policy approach is to some of these concerns, they were too busy saying all lives matter. BLM is reverse racism. And I used to have this conversation with our county party chair at the time in Orange County. Look, Black Lives Matter at no point ever meant that only Black Lives Matter, that they mattered more than anyone else. There is nothing wrong with, as a conservative, with recognizing that there is a disparity of outcomes in America. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging the fact that a Black man is 87 times more likely to be denied a home mortgage, that high school Black seniors are 37% less likely to go to a four-year college. Because when we acknowledge those things, then we can start having the discussion about what's the right policy approach to resolve those things. This whole idea that you should just pull yourself up by the bootstrap is not a policy-based discussion. And that's where I was so frustrated with Republicans, because it's like, you have a golden opportunity. BLM was not a Democrat movement. Many of those people were saying, what the fuck has Pelosi done for us? But instead of coming to the table, they were like, oh no, institutions can't be racist. Like, well, no shit, governance can't be racist. But there's nothing.
When Romney lost, there was a whole I forget his name, but he came into the Trump sort of like mythos in the but he was the head of GOP at the time, and the whole point was doing the autopsy of trying to figure out like how we can get more minorities, people from like the queer community, whatever, the autopsy. You know what I'm saying? That was the whole point. It's like you're gonna go through all those things and figure out like how can we reach out to people we had so like hard to get. And then you have your Trump, and then you also have someone who I think is so toxic, Karen Owens.
Oh God!
And not only is she a female, she's a female of color, telling everyone that wants to hear that is white and older that like, oh no, we didn't ask for that. We didn't want that. That's what they want.
Candace Owens,
we're all happy.
Can I respond to Doraball's comment real quick?
Please.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
So I agree with you that we should have freedom of choice when it comes to school. I think it's pun intended. I think it's deplorable that we don't. But I think we need to pull back the lens, right? Because what we're talking about is school vouchers and school busing. Well, what if we didn't fund? What if we didn't fund schools with property tax? Because that's the root of the cause, is that rich neighborhoods pay more in property tax so they have better schools. Well, if we had a different method of funding, if it was government funded, if we gave a fraction that we give to the military, that would be, we could have the equal quality straight across the board, no matter of the community. What do you guys think?
I agree. I totally agree.
I think you hit the nail. I've said that for many, many years, that, yeah, property taxes, and look, let's be clear. The continued funding of education based on property taxes is not fundamentally different than a Jim Crow law, because the outcome is the same. It's funding education by socioeconomic status. And that's where, I get irritated with conservatives, because it's like, look, when you use those words, funding education by property taxes is no different than Jim Crow. Oh my God, you're a rhino. No, I'm a realist that recognizes this is the entire concept behind.
What does rhino mean? You said that twice. What does rhino mean?
Rhino is Republican in name only. If you don't suck Donald Trump's left nut, then you're considered a fake Republican.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And it was a term before even like Trump was around, but like it became much more of a slur after Trump, because they just meant like, if you don't like goose step with him, I shouldn't say goose step. If you just like don't fall in line with him, then like you don't believe in like what we are doing as a party, or what we're doing as like, whatever. But like, yeah, that was a term beforehand, because that was something that was put on Lindsey Graham.
That's hilarious.
It was put on, Lindsey Graham was looked at as a rhino, but he's looked at it also as a hawk. So it was like he had to like balance through both of those things. I'm not sure who wins
Beast Wars.
Dead.
It's a rhino hawk.
You want to talk about Beast Wars? Honestly, dude, I love Beast Wars. All right, so don't bring that up. Don't.
I love that.
Rhino hawk and a jackalope.
Apparently, it's going on in the Republican Party in real life.
Well, just don't bring up Beast Wars, because that's really like something I love. I love Beast Wars.
I love that show.
Yeah, it's just Optimus Primal. Anyway,
Hey, Adorable loves butt jokes. Hold on a second.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. If you're digging what I'm doing, picking up what I'm throwing down, please do share with friends and on social media. Until next time, keep on digging for the truth.